Do you remember the English longsword by Arms and Armor that I made a video about several months ago? It was a first impression video, and I didn't have particular objective complaints about it. It was just, I think I made a remark about the finish, how it could be smoother for the price. But overall, it was just a matter of personal preference. It wasn't quite my thing, mainly because of the shape of the handle and the pommel. But even so, Craig at Arms and Armor saw that video and offered to replace the sword with another one, which is pretty awesome. Considering that there wasn't anything particularly wrong with it. There was not, it wasn't, didn't have any flaw or anything, but still offered to replace it, and I got this instead. This is the Town Guard, also made by Arms and Armor, obviously, and this is a side sword. So functionally, and to an extent also time-wise, this is between the medieval arming sword and a Renaissance rapier. So the side sword and the rapier also existed side by side. Is that a pun on side sword? Anyway, so this is kind of a compromise between the two, because it allows you precise thrusts and effective thrusts, but it also allows you cuts. Not that a rapier doesn't. You can in fact cut with a rapier, but it's not going to be anywhere near as effective as other types of sword. And this is somewhat in between. So you have the complex hilt, so you have a lot of hand protection, and there is a lot of weight here, of course. There's a lot of metal. You have a pretty wide blade here. It then tapers a lot towards the point. So the balance is really quite close to the hilt. As you can see here, it's almost on the top ring there. And so this means that you have a lot of point control. If somebody tries to control your blade and push it to the side, you can just slip under and then come in for the thrust. And you have a lot of precision with the thrusts. And so lunges with this are possible. They're possible with other swords as well, but this is more efficient. And at the same time, it still has enough blade or more blade presence compared to a rapier. So this would have just a little more force in the impact. Of course, the good thing about a light blade is that you can usually generate more speed, and velocity is very important. But a lighter, thinner blade and a narrower blade especially is still not going to cut as well as a wider and but somewhat more massive one. You may have noticed that I keep my finger up here, so it's through one of these two rings, and this again is to give you a bit of extra point control. There are several different grips in rapier fencing. There is in fact also one grip where you put both of those fingers on top of that guard inside of the ring, and that gives you a lot of point control, but it's not as good for cuts. So personally, I like to keep it here. As the title says, this is the first impression and not the final review, although I did just come back home from some testing, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So I'll just talk a little bit about my first impression of the fit and finish and everything. Fit is perfect. It's all nice and tight. Nothing is loose. I very much like the non-reflective satin finish on the hilt. The blade also has a satin finish, but the hilt is just a bit more dull and gray, so it has more of a contrast with the blade, which looks really neat. Quite like that. The pommel as well, and the shape of the hilt is really good. I don't see any flaws. I don't see welding marks or pitting or anything like that, so that's good. And on the pommel, you can see here that it's peened. Then you have these additional lines where the ricasso is, and these look quite nice. So it's a small touch, but it does add a little bit of decoration, and overall the blade geometry is good. So the center line is very even. So overall, a very nice side sword. It's beautiful, it handles well, but I have one complaint, and I'll wrap that in a general request for sword makers. If you advertise a sword as sharp, or really as anything other than a blunt practice blade, and you're done with it, and you can do this, please don't ship it out. This is not sharp. This is not a sharp sword. I should not be able to do this. There should be blood coming out of my hand right now. And this is really getting on my nerve, because I have to repeat this so many times. Like, swords need to be properly sharp. And it really irritates me to see so many blades on the market that just aren't properly sharpened. In this case, though, I have to say the overall edge geometry is good. So this wouldn't take much to sharpen at all. So that's a good thing. There is no, massive secondary bevel and really thick edge or anything like that. So this would be a quick job. I won't have to do much to bring this up to proper sharpness. But I just wish it was there in the first place. You should at the very least be able to cut office paper with it, in my opinion. With a blade like this, because it is fairly light and is balanced towards the hilt, in my opinion, this needs to be shaving sharp. You need to be able to take off hair of your forearm with this, or any part of the body really, other than the face. That's a different story. But that's really my only complaint. This I don't like, but otherwise, and you'll see in the test footage, that's exactly the problem. It's not sharp enough. And I also let my instructor give it a go, and he ran into the same problem. Thrusts work well with this, as expected. Otherwise, as far as the first impression is concerned, I would recommend looking into it. But since this is not the final review, it's not going to be the actual buyer's recommendation or whatever. You'll get that when I'm done with the test, if I haven't come up with any particular problem. That's it for now. So thank you for watching, and thanks Craig for the awesome customer service. I appreciate it.